All right, I call this my Medicare bonus video. I'm going to give you a little bit more information on LCDs and ABNs. So LCD stands for Local Coverage Determination, and I literally just Googled Medicare LCD. Okay, so the first one that came up, I'm just going to click on it, and it's by state because local means regional. So it depends on what state. So I'm just going to hit, I want to see all LCDs. I'm just going to, I have to pick a state. So I'm in Michigan, so that's what I'm going to pick. And this is my Medicare administrative contractor, so that's who I want to see their LCDs, their local coverage determinations. And here's all the payment policies that are out there that I could look at. Okay? All of these different ones. And I want to, I thought there was a search. I want to look at foot care. That's the one I usually use in the classroom. That's the one I'm used to reading. I think it's called routine foot care. It is not. I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to find it. Okay, I found it and pulled it up. This is called the local coverage determination for foot care. And this is just a policy number. Doesn't really mean anything. It's how they keep track of them. And so let's say I work for a podiatrist and we have patients coming in for what is considered routine foot care. Okay, so it says here, generally, routine foot care is excluded from coverage. Services that are considered routine and not covered by Medicare include the following: cutting or removal of corns and calluses, trimming, cutting, clipping, or debriding of nails, including mycotic nails, which means fungus. Myco means fungus. Shaving, paring, cutting, or removal of keratoma, tyloma, and helomas. Other hygienic and preventive maintenance care, such as cleaning and soaking the feet, the use of skin creams, and any other service performed in the absence of localized illness. So my father, as he aged, his toenails got thicker and thicker and kind of gross. I mean, feet are gross anyway, but as we get older, it gets even worse. My mom got to the point where she could no longer clip his toenails. They were so thick. So we had the podiatrist do it. My dad clearly fell into this category of trimming, cutting nails. And so Medicare would not cover it. They considered that to be cosmetic or something you can do at home. Okay. When they talk here about cleaning and soaking and creams, it almost sounds like we're talking a pedicure. Okay? But obviously we're talking like a medical pedicure. Okay, so routine foot care is generally performed by the beneficiary themselves or by a caregiver. End of story. Routine foot care not covered. But let's keep reading. Sometimes it is covered. It says exceptions to the routine foot care exclusions include treatment of warts on the feet, they'll pay for. Presence of a systemic condition such as a metabolic, neurological, or peripheral vascular disease. Fungus, mycotic nails in the presence of those systemic conditions. Okay, so what do they call systemic conditions? Right here. Diabetes, arteriosclerosis, Berger's disease, thrombophlebitis, peripheral neuropathy, etc. So, routine foot care is not covered. But if your patient falls into these categories, it is covered. So, for the patient you have in front of you, covered or not covered, you've got to know the situation, the medical situation for the patient you have in front of you. Then they go on to say, for these ones here marked with an asterisk, it's covered only if the patient is also under the care of a doctor for those conditions. You can't just have diabetes and say, take care of my feet, if you're not seeing a doctor for the diabetes in the first place. They consider current care to be within the previous 6 months. It doesn't mean you had to be there yesterday. But have you been to a doctor in the last 6 months for a checkup? Yes or no? If the answer is no, they don't consider that to be an active disease. Okay. We have these Class A findings, Class B findings, Class C findings. Doctor's going to have to be involved in this. This is not just biller's responsibility. So they have these categories of medical condition findings to separate what's going to be covered and what's not covered. Then they run through all the procedure codes we're even talking about. So there's only like 8 procedure codes that we're even talking about. And it gives us a whole bunch of diagnoses of what's going to be covered. Okay? Great. Goes on and on and on. There's something I missed. Hold on. Okay. So after we did this Class A, B, C finding, this is what I missed. If you have 1 Class A finding, 2 Class B findings, or 1 Class B and 2 Class C findings, that's what's going to allow this to be covered. How do we tell Medicare that we have, which one of those we have? Modifiers. Q7, Q8, Q9. Q7 goes with number 1 there, Q8 goes with number 2, Q9 goes with number 3. So we actually are telling them which one of these classifications that we are saying, hey, pay us, because this is what we found. Okay, so this is just one policy that the podiatrist would need to know and understand. I'm sure the podiatrist does other procedures, like bunion removals, hammer toes, claw toes, plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendons. I mean, they have a whole variety of things. Guess what? They need to know all the payment policies for all the things they do in their office. Okay. So, we have determined, when we read this routine policy, and we have determined that our patient falls into this routine care and Medicare is not going to cover this. Great. Our patient has to pay for it. But our patient has to fill out an ABN. Our patient has to be informed that it's not covered. You can't just have a patient assume Medicare is going to pay for it, and then when they're checking out to leave, you say, that'll be $200 today, and they go, what? That's not okay. Medicare says, no, you will not surprise these patients. You will fill out this ABN. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in here routine foot care, nail trimming. We're just going to put in nail trimming. Whoops. Medicare does not pay for routine foot care. And we're going to tell them that it's $85. Okay. So then we're going to read this. D, E, F. Medicare does not pay for nail trimming below. You may have to pay. Medicare does not pay for everything, even some care that you and your healthcare provider have good reason to think you need. We expect Medicare to not pay for the nail trimming. We tell them why. We tell them the cost. Then our patient gets to pick one of 3 options. Option 1 says, I want the nail trimming. I'll pay you, but I want you to bill it to Medicare so I can see your rejection. Option 2, I want the nail trimming, but don't bother billing it to Medicare. Don't waste the paper. Option 3, I don't want the nail trimming. I am not going to pay you. If the patient picks this option, you say, thank you, Ms. Smith. Have a great day. I'll go ahead and cancel your appointment. They leave. Patient's going to sign it and date it. You have to keep this on file. You have to have this document. You actually add a modifier when you bill that to Medicare, assuming the patient asks you to. You add a modifier that says you have this signed. So the rejection comes just like you expected, and the patient calls up Medicare to complain because they think that they can get Medicare to change their mind. And they say, I got this nail trimming, and I don't understand why it's not covered, and you should pay for this. And Medicare says to them, you should have signed a document saying it wasn't going to be covered. Did you sign that? And the patient goes, I don't think so. Medicare's then going to call your office and ask you to send this in. Prove you did it. If you did not do it, or you did it and can't find it, you will have to write it off and refund the patient their money back. Medicare says if you can't prove it, it doesn't exist. So, these are very important documents in the financial success of your office. Absolutely.